With all the headlines swirling from interest rate uncertainty to market volatility, it's easy to feel unsettled about your financial future. That's why today we're cutting through the noise and talking about why a financial plan isn't just nice to have, but absolutely essential. I'm Terra McBride, Chief Marketing Officer at Prime Capital Financial, and I'm joined today by my colleague, Mary Lucas, National Director of Financial Planning and Client Experience. Holy smokes, what a title. Mary's here to share how planning can bring you clarity, keep you focused on what really matters, and help give you confidence for the milestones in life that, frankly, markets just do not care about. So, Mary, let's get into it. We've seen a lot of unsettling headlines lately, from market volatility to shifting interest rate expectations and even concerns about inflation. Why is it so important for every investor to have a financial plan in times like this?
Yeah, these are challenging times with the economy and the political environment, the way that it is these days. It's completely understandable that our clients would feel a certain level of uncertainty. And that's truly where a well structured financial plan is going to come into play. When we meet with our clients, we take a deep dive into their current situation, looking at everything about their life in a financial sense. Also, talk to them about their goals and objectives, and then set a structured step-by-step plan that'll help them get there, not only 10 years from now, but 20, 30 years from now as well. And you're right, you hit the nail on the head. The market is volatile, and any well-planned financial plan will be stress tested. And that's really critical in the sense that we're going to look at a plan, we're going to test it not only through positive market times, but also times when the market's on a low cycle. Uh, that's what
So
it's all
you
about.
mentioned stress testing, Mary, and so I just am curious, are there particular tools that you're using to do those stress tests? What does that look like? What's the rigor around all of that?
Yeah, most of our plans are done through a Monte Carlo analysis, which is a great way to stress test a plan. Or we're going to look at 1,000 different market iterations. Some that'll be very positive, some that'll be some of the lowest market conditions around. And essentially, you're taking a blend of those market conditions and seeing how your plan, the investments and all that are building, the building blocks of the plan are going to manage over the course of time that you have, whether that be 20, 30, 40 years.
So that's really interesting to me because you're not just, it's not just like writing down words on a piece of paper, right? You're actually running the plan through these scenarios. It's interesting to hear 1,000 different potential scenarios to really understand, at the top end, at the bottom end, what that plan would end up looking like. So I find that just very interesting. There's a lot of rigor to this. It's not just a, hey, we typed down some paragraphs and now you have a plan that will follow. It's much more involved than that.
Absolutely. Any plan is should be dynamic, meaning that we're not just going to meet with you one time and hope the plan works for the next 20, 30 years. We're going to continually meet with our clients. We'll go through that Monte Carlo simulation time and time again as the market is going to continue to change. It's important to always come back, review, make sure your goals and objectives are still the same, and make sure that the plan is still on target to meet those long-term goals.
Absolutely. That makes sense. So when markets swing, many investors feel the urge to react emotionally, whether that's pulling out of stocks or even chasing the next hot investment. So how does a well-built financial plan help keep people focused on their long-term goals instead of getting sidetracked by short-term noise or opportunities that seem to pop up?
Yeah, the key word there is focus. If you're taking the time to build out that plan to last a lifetime, you can come back to it through the various market cycles that will occur. It's important to keep in mind here that you're not doing it independently. You're doing it in partnership with an advisor who is trained to not be emotional. They have a vested interest in our clients' success. They're there to guide you through this process, remind you through these lower market cycles that we built this plan. We knew these times would come. And those type of conversations and those continuous conversations are going to help provide our clients with that direction, that continued comfort, that confidence that they're going to still maintain and meet their long-term goals.
I love that. Like, you're not doing this alone. You're doing this with a professional who's trained to do these things to keep the emotion out of it. That it just kind of helps to know that you're not alone in the whole
Mhm.
process. So I
Yeah.
think that's a really important point. Moving over to investor, every investor situation is different. I think you
Yeah.
alluded to that a
Mhm.
little bit. Retirement timelines are different, college expenses, business ownership, health considerations. Could you share an example of how financial planning helps people prepare for the biggest milestones in life, not just market swings?
Absolutely, absolutely. And there are we all go through a lot of milestones in life. That is definitely for sure. I've worked with clients through many of them, anywhere from saving for a home. Maybe it's their very first home. Maybe it's their dream home or a second home. That's an important milestone. Expanding families. That's always an additional expense involved with adding to family members and how we're going to plan for college savings. We've looked at, of course, planning for retirement. That's a very common one that we work with our clients on. Also, the unexpected life events, whether that client might deal with an illness or maybe even something more positive. They come into an inheritance that they didn't quite expect. All of those milestones helping weave that into their long term goals. I think, though, one scenario that I work with is very real to people these days is through a job transition, whether that be a promotion, a choice to make that transition, or maybe it's the unfortunate event where they lost their job. That's an emotional time for many people. There's a lot of decisions that might need to be made in the short term. If it's something where they've lost their job, they might need to plan for 3 to 6 months of where should we pull from our portfolio? How do we best do that without totally wiping out our long-term goals? Some of our clients work with companies that have some pretty complex benefit plans. There's definitely those conversations that we can work through, help that client better understand how best to, again, transition from one job to the other in the best way possible, keeping their long-term goals in mind.
It's also really interesting to hear you say even something like buying your first home, because you start to think about how old is a person. I mean, I know it's different for everybody, but how old is a person when they're buying their first home or having their first child? So is there a particular age that you would say it's a great time to have a financial plan, or is it really kind of like what we're coaching, with any prospect or client who comes to us and asks for guidance, like the sooner that you can get started, the better. How would you recommend that for people who are
Yeah.
curious?
Absolutely. I would answer the question: it's never too late to get started, and it's never too early to
Yeah.
get started. Everyone's different. We have some young clients that are just proving to be successful at a very young age. Starting businesses seems to be a very popular thing for younger people as opposed to how it was many years ago. It's never too late and it's never too early. The better, the earlier you are, you learn more about the tools and the trades that you can use to get you toward the long term goal.
Yeah, so you're never too young to get started
Yeah.
with saving, understanding your portfolio, understanding your investments, getting involved with an advisor. It just sounds like it's good to start, like today's the day, right? Wherever you are, today's the day to get
Use
started.
today. Yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep. If you had to sum it up, what would you say is the single biggest benefit investors get from having a financial plan, especially now when the economy can feel a little bit hairy?
It's hard to wrap it up in just one single element that makes a plan so important. But if I try, I would suggest that it provides that structured roadmap that everyone needs. You need, as you hinted at the earlier part of this conversation, markets times are tough, economy swings, political climate, market swings. A structured roadmap is going to keep you in line with what you need to do just to stay focused, stay central, focus on those long-term goals, try to shut out the noise and working toward those long-term goals and objectives.
Yeah, I often will talk to friends or family about like when the world feels so big, we have access to information at a level that it's unprecedented, right? Never had this in the palm of our hand 24/7. It's a lot. And so when I'm feeling overwhelmed with all of that, I try to bring my focus closer to home, like my house, my neighborhood, my city versus everything that's going on in the world. And it feels like a financial plan really helps you to hone in on like your life, those things that are most important to you. And as you've mentioned, it stress tests around all the things that are going on in the big big world. But it helps to keep you focused on what's important to you and provide that confidence and a sense of some security that maybe you wouldn't have without the plan.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's where working with an advisor to guide you through those difficult times, not only the good times. Advisors like to be part of those positive life situations, but it's so important to have them as that backbone during the times that the market is a little bit shaky and you do feel that level of uncertainty. And to your point, we all have our own personal goals. It's all about what we want our long-term outlook to look like, and just having a solid financial plan is really what it's all about, to provide that clarity and direction that we all need in life.
I love that. Well, that's a great note to end on, Mary. Thank you for sharing your insights today. To me, the takeaway is clear. We cannot control the markets or the headlines, but we can control our plan. If you don't have a financial plan, or if it's been a while since you reviewed yours, this is the time to act. This is your sign. Scan the QR code on the screen or click the link in the show description below to reach out to our team at Prime Capital Financial. And let's make sure you're prepared for whatever comes next. Thanks for listening, and remember, stay informed, stay invested, and as always, we'll be here to help you navigate the twists and turns of the market. Until next time.